Welcome to the Spearo Hangout, where we talk all things spearfishing, freediving and foraging. We're three guys from Devon in the UK who are excited to share some of the learnings from our spearfishing journey with you over the coming episodes. We bring in some special guests along the way to help spread some in-depth Spearo knowledge from some of the most experienced people in the scene. All right, lads, how you doing?
Yo, how's it going?
Hello. I'm dying.
Oh, you're really struggling, mate.
Yeah, my last 4 days I've had tonsillitis, which has been fun. So
It's all that smoking, man.
I wish. I'm really well. Apart from tonight during the podcast, while standing around trying not to cry, I haven't smoked all week. But no, it's yeah. So apologies for my voice in advance if my voice sounds like shit.
Have you been diving much, either of you, this week? The weather doesn't been much, has it?
Yeah, I went in for a quick one, just had a mullet, not much else.
Okay.
Yeah, so not much else. I'm going tomorrow with our mate Lawrence. Going to go get some scallops.
Oh, right.
Nice.
Where's my invite?
I thought you were coming.
Mine. No invites for us.
I don't know what happened to our little, the wolf pack or whatever we've got going on here.
Rich is a professional spearfisher now, so
He doesn't want to come on our Skye trip. He don't get invited to things. There's something going on here.
Deletes all my notes.
Yeah.
Mate, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, sorry about that. There's obviously a miscommunication.
Oh, yeah. Check my diary.
Yeah, no, we had a bit of a boat dive the other day as well, didn't we? We took out Davo's boat and my boat.
Yeah, that was really nice. Nice to go in your boat for the first time. I really enjoyed it.
That was cool, man. It would have been good to go out a bit longer, but it was good.
Yeah, it was just
a different boat as well, didn't you? You didn't want to come on the same boat. There is a pattern happening here.
Yeah, I'm just trying to not put all my mojo onto you guys because you're doing so well.
Did a podcast episode by himself as well? Do you even want us here?
Oh, mate, don't turn that around on me. That was you, boys.
Yeah, we're just going to change the podcast name to Richard's Talking. Richard's Interviews.
We went on David Ski with him, actually. That was really cool.
Yeah, how did you get on?
Boats. Yeah, nice boats, man. I didn't shoot any fish. I was just looking for 2 brown crabs, so I still need the comp. But
what boat do you prefer? Rib or hard-sided? And I'm not saying between mine and Dave's, but
probably the rib. It was a bit easier to get in.
Yeah, it's more comfy, isn't it?
I actually I sat on the side of his boat. I took my fins off, put them in, and then because there's quite a bit of chop on there, and then I fell it back in the water. And I didn't have my fins on, and David was like, "Oh, you're going to struggle now because you haven't got your fins on."
No.
So I tried pulling myself up like 3 times. I just couldn't do it without the fins. And in the end, I had to get Dave, who's like 67-year-old man, to help me in the boat.
Oh my God. Excellent. Oh yeah, no, I think I got 5 okay size, normal size pollock on that, and we were only in for like 2 hours. Yeah. And Ben, you got cuttle. Big cuttlefish.
Yeah, really lovely big cuttlefish. I saw plenty of little pollock, but after being in the Skye the week before, I felt like my freezer was probably full enough. But I thought you'd be on the lookout.
I thought you'd be on the lookout for lobsters, man.
Yeah, well, I did have a little bit of luck. I didn't find any. I've not got my eye in this year, but I was dead happy with the cuttlefish. And I think, like, as with anything, the more you like talking about cooking, the more you do it, the more cuttlefish you cook, the better you get at it. And this latest one was, it's pretty special. It's all about short and sweet, cook it really, really quickly, little dusting of flour, little, tiny amount of beer batter, I guess, like really thin beer batter. And it was
nice, man.
Absolutely.
What's this note about Ben's last sole?
Oh yeah. I caught my last sole for the competition as well this week, so pretty chuffed with that. But not only my favourite fish, also worth 7 points.
So I was going to say that puts you up near David, doesn't
it? Yeah. I don't know what the actual thing is. I'm 5th on the list now. I don't think it's going to last. I don't know when the competition ends yet. Does anybody know?
Still haven't had any announcement.
No, that I know of, I think is still October 31st. Whether they're going to extend it by a month, I don't know.
But
hope the weather improves soon.
Yeah, I'm coming for you, mate.
How far behind?
Not that far behind, but I'm trying to find those 2 brown crabs because they'll get me close to you. So.
Cool.
I did find a big lobster when we went on the boats the other day, and I've got a nice cut on my hand trying to wrestle him out of the hole. But
no.
Yeah, he won that one. But it's all good fun, eh? But yeah, not much else this week. But I'm looking forward to hearing about what you boys got up to on the Isle of Skye.
Yeah.
Well, we've got Aareon coming on in a second, and looking forward to talking about that. 4 days that we had up there, 5 days up there.
Nice.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So
I want to hear why you got your new nickname.
Ew. I still don't understand, but we'll figure it out in a minute. Let's I'll give Aareon a ring. We'll get him in.
All right, Aareon, great to see you. How you doing?
Good to see you, Ben. How are you keeping?
Yeah, really good. It's
Hey, Aareon.
All right, Eeyore.
I like his new nickname. How's it going, Aareon? You right?
Yeah, no, it's going good. I'm gutted you didn't make it, mate.
Oh, no, man. It looked awesome, dude. I'll have to catch you on the next one.
But you definitely look like you're smashing good fish whilst you're missing out anyway.
Yeah, still had a few fish, man. It's all good. I had a consolation prize, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, you did well. Yeah. It seems like a long time ago since Skye.
Yeah, but you and me both. The weather here is now atrocious, and it's certainly like gusting 40, and there'll be no trips around regardless of what happens.
Really? I guess we were really lucky with that weather window. We had like a couple of days. It timed it perfectly, didn't we?
And it all went to shit after that, unfortunately, but that's winter time now.
Yeah. I guess it happens. Aareon, just for the listeners, I wonder if you give yourself a little bit of an introduction, where you're from, what you do, how you got to spearfishing, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I'm from a wee village just outside of Inverness. That's where I'm initially from, and I spent a good amount of time down in Devon, actually, in the Royal Navy. So I was in the Royal Navy for 4.5 years, and then after I left that, joined the police force and worked in Port William, and now with the job I've ended up in Skye, in the northwest of Skye, and there's plenty of good spearfishing here, so yeah, I'm making the most of it.
Great stuff, yeah, and it was really good. Obviously, me and Anthony came up to see. What was it, two weeks ago, something like that, Anthony?
Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. As you said a second ago, it feels like ages ago.
Yeah,
but, it was. I've had plenty of sleep since then.
Yeah, no, it was great to go spearfishing in your backyard. Thanks for inviting us up and showing us the sights. It was really cool. Before we get into what we did in the trip up to Skye, I thought it would be quite cool just to get a little bit more information from you about some other things that you've done outside of that, because I'm not sure the listeners want to hear about Skye all night. So
for the whole podcast. Richard's going to love it. He's been telling us how much he's just been looking forward to spending, an hour and a half talking about Skye trip that you didn't go on.
I am looking forward to it, mate, because I didn't hear anything from you boys, so I want to hear the costs.
Yeah, that's how much fun we're having.
Yeah, so I'll start with when I started spearfishing. So I started spearfishing in the northwest of France about probably 8 years ago now. I've always been into my fishing. I've been into my fishing since about the age of 6. So always been a line fisherman. And when I was in the northwest of France, that's where my ex-partners folks used to stay. Used to do quite a lot of carp fishing and that. And
cool.
her fella said her old man said, "Oh, go to Decathlon there and go and buy a spear gun," basically, for me and her younger brother. So we went and bought these cheap, nasty 60-centimeter guns, without rails, and surfing wetsuit. And I think they were 3mm surfing wetsuits. We had 5mm gloves. I remember hands were warm, but everything else was freezing. And basically harassed a few mullet in the shallows. But that seems like a long, long time ago now. But we were frozen to the bone in 3mm surfing wetsuits.
Yeah. Did you catch much? Was it fairly successful at first?
It was pretty much wrasse, the odd spider crabs, and I think we got a few mullet. That was the first fish I ever speared was a mullet.
Yeah.
But I remember putting in a perfect stone shot on the way back at the end of a long dive. I've been out there for a couple of hours and swimming into shore, and I couldn't have been more than 20 meters from getting out and just put a perfect stone shot into this mullet. It was kind of like disbelief, because I was just about a blank at that point, and then came back with this mullet, proud as punch, to put on the barbecue.
Brilliant. It's often the way, isn't it? big trip out, catch nothing all day, and then 20 meters from the shore. Anthony, you're always doing that.
What, blanking?
No, you always bring out something in the last 20 minutes.
That's true, actually. He does catch them all at the very end of the dive, doesn't he?
That's it. They're all following him around. They can smell me.
That's just because you're fishing your wetsuit too much.
Yeah, exactly. Because I haven't got a pisset, so it's just that smell that they follow round at the end, and then they go, and I see them at the end.
Monster wee.
That's it. And so from obviously run lining, how did you hear about spearfishing? Can you remember how you sort of got into it? Did you see somebody doing it? Did you know?
No, it was literally when my ex-partner's old man said, go and get into spearfishing. So we done that for a bit. And then I never really thought to bring it back to the UK until I got my posting to Skye, about coming up for 4 years now. And I said to myself, I was getting a lot of very big pollock at that point of run line. We were certainly smashing a decent number around the 10 pound mark. And it was almost getting a wee bit easy. Like at certain places, it was too easy to catch like lots of big fish. And I just wanted to put more of a challenge to it. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to treat myself to a wetsuit. And so I got myself a Cressy wetsuit, 7mm, and some plastic fins, and Rob Allen snapper. I got an 80 centimeter one of those, and that was me away. And I was addicted from the word go.
Fantastic. Nice. And do you dive with many people up towards Skye? I think you spearfished with Josh a few times from Souls Untapped.
Yeah, so I have quite a lot of people that come over. When I first started, it was pretty desperate because I didn't really know how to find buddies, and I wasn't really on any social media at that point, so I didn't really know the areas to go and reach out for buddies. So I ended up kind of grabbing a few friends from the area and basically saying, you're going in a wetsuit. And thankfully, they took to it like a duck to water. And I mean, one of the boys I had out, first time I took him out, he was scallop diving 8 meters of water, no harm in February in 7 degrees water. Nice. So if you can do that in those conditions, you can dive in anything. And now, 6 months later, he's smashing probably like 16, 17 meter dives, and he's shooting pollock over 5 pound at good depths and good bottom times. So it's nice. But I've had to kind of create my own buddies for my local buddies. There's quite a few people now that will come to the island to go diving with me, which is also good, like from the Scottish Spearfishing Club. So never short of buddies.
And that then progressed, well, obviously to more recently. You did the freshwater competition over in Finland, didn't you, this year?
Yeah, so I ended up really lastminute.com. I got a message from one of the people in the Scottish Spearfishing Club saying a boy dropped out and basically looking for someone to fill his space ASAP, and ended up managing to get the time off work, and I went to Finland. That was it was so last minute, and it just happened that the dates crossed over when I was in Shetland to go spearfishing for a week, so I had to cut my trip short with Josh, 1 day short, and then go straight to Shetland. So it was tragic. I had like 16 days, 14 of which were like diving.
What's it like?
It was awesome, but I definitely would have owed Shannon a lot of time back.
Yeah, we all miss this a lot of time back. That's for sure. How long were you out there? Did you say 14 days?
So I was out in Shetland before that, so I spent 5.5 days in Shetland with Josh, and then got back. So for those of you that don't know, getting to Shetland's an absolute epic. There's 2 options: very expensive flights, which you probably would be expensive before you had the extra luggage for sports tubes and that, or you can get a 12-hour ferry. So I sat on a 12-hour ferry and then got to Josh's, and then we ended up having to get 2 more ferries to get to where we were going.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah. And so I take it you then had to do the 12-hour ferry back to then get onto a flight somewhere up there to then go to Finland?
Yep. So I got back to Aberdeen in the morning and then drove straight to Edinburgh Airport to go and get a flight to Finland, and then met up with Scott and Fina, and then the following day we met up with Daniel, and then that was us. Took a train up north to the northeast of Finland to go dive Lake Peresi.
Nice. And how was the competition? How did it go?
So it was my first time ever diving freshwater. I've never dived it. Obviously, it's illegal in this country to dive freshwater, but the buoyancy was one thing. So you notice that you need a lot less lead to kind of hunting. So I was using a lot less. For the most part, I didn't use my weight vest. I just dropped the weight vest, and I was kind of 5 kilos on my belt was enough for what I was doing, unless we were going really shallow, in which case you basically didn't need any lead because you were snorkeling in about 2 foot. But the water temperature too, it was I'm used to wearing a 7.5 mil top and 7 mil bottoms, and I basically wear that all year round now. I go to, but there it was 5 mil bottoms and 5.5 mil top. That
so what was the water temp there?
The water temperature was flicking between 20 to 21, but the
really, water temperature.
Water temperature.
Christ, in Finland, that's amazing. I would have thought it was the complete opposite. I'd have thought it'd have been like 4 or something really cold.
4 is an interesting number that you mentioned, because those lakes freeze over in the wintertime. You can literally drive cars on those lakes.
Yeah,
and that's for about 3 months of the year. And you'll all be aware of thermoclines. Have you dived for any harsh ones before, Anthony?
No.
So the water went from about around 10 to 12 meters. It went from being 20 degrees, 21 degrees to being 4 degrees.
Yeah.
In the space of 1 foot.
The closest that I've ever been is when I've been up to Vobster, which is obviously a quarry. And it's sort of like, say, 17, 18 degrees on the surface. Go down 10 meters and it goes down to 12. Go down another 5 meters and it goes down to like 8. And it's just amazing how within 5 seconds it's gone from 18 to 8, and it's Baltic cold.
Yeah. So the thermocline we were diving in was so severe that you could kind of stick your hand into the thermocline and you'd have your hand in 4 degrees water, and you'd have your body in 20. The issue is obviously we're diving. Well, I wasn't even using wetsuit gloves. We were just using like Dyneema style gloves, the kind that you use for gardening. So you've got no thermal protection. You put your hand in that and you know about it. But thankfully for us, we didn't spend too much time looking for fish, and that there wasn't much. There was a fish called a burbot that you could hunt in the cold water, but it also got really dark, so it was all kind of torch hunting for these wee fish hiding in holes. So we decided that there was plenty of other fish on the agenda which we could get in the warmer water. So
and what were the different fish that you were hunting for? Was it like, I mean, I don't really know much about freshwater fishing, but you got like pike and perch and dace, and like what was the?
Yeah, so you had your pike, you had perch, you had roach, rudd, you had a fish called an ide, there was even a crucian carp shot, tench, bream.
Okay.
There's the pike perch as well, sander. I don't think anyone shot any of those, but the main targets were pike and perch were the main ones, and then quite a few bream. But it was interesting because like it was a style of hunting that I'd never done before. Because we were for the pike, we were in really shallow water. Like you're pulling yourself through. I put 100,000 miles on my dive bar fins with scratches. So you're in that water that shallow. 6 months old and they're pretty well scratched, but sometimes you're hunting in water that's less than 2 feet, and you're needing to do a full breath to pull yourself over the shallows to get to the next part that you're aiming for.
Nice.
And you had to use it was just so stealthy. So I really learned to improve on my kind of shallow water stalking, because that's something I don't need to do much of on Skye. There is some areas that you do that for the bass, but probably even then you're still in probably 2 to 3 meters of water for the most part. So fishing.
Can you eat all the fish there? I think I never would have thought about eating pike.
So I've actually eaten pike before. It's not a fish that I'd go to anymore for choice, but when I was younger, I have eaten pike, and I think it's probably to do with where you get it from that's the important part. If you catch a pike that's in a muddy canal, it's probably going to taste terrible. Whereas if you catch a pike in nice, clean, cooler waters like Finland or up here in the Highlands, then it's actually not a bad eating fish.
Oh, nice.
But then it's got a Y bone though, so that was a bit tricky. In between each fillet on the back, it's got this weird shaped Y bone, which is fiddly for processing when you're trying to get your meat out.
Christ, nice. And so how did you guys get on? Did you place? Not place with no fish, but did you place in the competition? Did you catch?
So I came 19th out of 24 for the guys, but I think I was the only person that hadn't ever competed in a competition and hadn't won national to get there, because I was just picked out of a hat to say, can you come along? So I got told I'd done all right, considering I've not done competitions before. And there was a few blips that I really wish a few things that I'd change, which would have made me score a lot higher. There was one of my fish that was underweight by 2 grams, and I got a penalty.
Man.
So I was pretty raging about that, but it is what it is. And then my pike was 60 odd grams under the qualifying weight, and that was a really high scoring fish. So if that had scored, I think I'd done the maths and I probably would have came in the top 13, 14.
Nice.
So it would have jumped me quite a lot of spaces for that, but next time.
Wow, well done for going anyway. Christ, especially last minute. And as your first competition, even to catch a fish is, better than I'm doing for every competition this year.
What was what was the viz like there? Was it like crystal clear water, like big long guns, or what's the hunting like?
I spent all my time using a 70 centimeter gun with a single band. That was just my thing. So I had my inverted roller setup. It was initially a 90, and then I put it down to 70. So I was enjoying that more. And then for the competition, I changed the muzzle over to a Paphos open muzzle and put a single band on it just to make it quick because it didn't need to be anything more than that. So I was using a 70 centimeter gun, and I shot all of my fish with that. I took my 82 centimeter roller with me, but didn't really have a purpose. Plus, the roller muzzle actually ended up catching a lot because some of the reeds we were in were so tight you couldn't turn around a 50 centimeter gun. You had to hope the fish were in front of you. It was like properly dense in your face, and sometimes the further into the reeds you got, the better the fishing was.
So although the viz was good, the style of hunting lent itself to a smaller gun that you can move quite quickly through the water, I guess.
So there was kind of two styles. We were either doing the stalking in the shallows, which was predominantly for the pike, and I shot a decent sized rod in the shallows. And then we'd done some scouting where we were basically spending hours on end going back and forth, zigzagging across these marks, trying to find rocks. And that was where a lot of perch were holding out. And some of these rocks would have been no bigger than the size of a normal car, but they would hold perch, but you could be 5 meters off them and you'd miss them and the perch wouldn't go that far. So it was really important using the sounder to find those fish. And then navionics was absolutely vital to what we were doing. We had to mark up all the rocks, and sometimes there'd be perch at the rock and you come back and the perch you scouted had disappeared. But I'd go down onto the rocks, and the trick was not to go off the edge of the rock, but don't disturb the silt in that, because the visibility would go really, really poor in parts because all the sediment would just go up and it wouldn't settle properly. So that was an interesting thing for myself, and it was really large bottom times as well in order to shoot the larger perch, because the perch would normally come in quite quickly, and then it tended to be that the bigger ones would come in later at the end of the shoals. And we ended up at some point your average breath hold was well over a minute 40, even a minute 50 for some of the fish. That was interesting for me, because for what I do normally, I really need to hold my breath more than a minute 20. Smashing out minute 50 dives back to back was interesting.
Exhausting, I imagine. And do you have big surface times to make up for that, or is it different because it's a competition? You got people there watching you.
I'd like to say I had big surface times, but for minute 50 dives, I was probably doing less than 4 minutes, 3 minutes 50 or something. You're basically, as soon as you hit your double time, you're straight down. That was what I was just on a double time, but I've got myself pretty relaxed, and I was just in my zone. I was going down there, and you could feel your heart almost beating really slowly. It was just awesome, and plugging a few of these nice perch, I ended up with one that was just over 500 grams. That was a pretty special fish for me. Pretty chuffed. But the most frustrating thing was that the fish that we'd scouted weren't there in the numbers on the marks that we found, because there was a mark that we'd even named on Navionics Perch Palace, and we went to Perch Palace, and it let us down on the day.
It's always the way. How did the team go on overall then?
So I think Scott Arthur, he came 17th, and then Daniel Mann, he came, I think he was either 14th or 15th, something like that. So and Fina, I can't remember what Fina placed in the competition, but I think overall I believe we came 5th out of the 8 teams or something like that. So
pretty good. Yeah. Would you do it again? Did you really enjoy it?
Yeah, I'd definitely do it again. It was good fun, and it was just so different, the freshwater element of it. And it was nice for the warm water. There was so many things that were just completely different. But I think if I'd do it again, I'd have much better idea of what to do with the scouting. I feel like we could have used our scouting time better to find more rocks, because a lot of the reeded areas that we were scouting, once we kind of worked it out, I think we probably should have spent more time on the sounder looking for rocks, because they seem to be vital for the big catches of the perch, which were quite a high scoring one. Get up to 12 perch for your group. So nobody on our team got that much, but some of the Finnish team and the Spanish team and that, they were all holding up their 12 perch before they moved on to the next species.
Oh, great stuff! It must be really hard work going to spear in a completely different environment. I think that even the jump for me going from spearing in Devon and Cornwall to Skye was quite a jump. Where in Devon places where we dive, it's mostly like there's a little bit of a shingle or sand beach, and then it slowly slopes down into maybe 4 or 5 meters of water, and you get some deeper spots, but it's it's less harsh. Whereas in Skye, obviously, it's often sheer drops off the cliffs into something that's much deeper, 15 meters.
Yeah, I think I was chucking you straight into 10, 15 meters at some points.
You were. I remember saying to you, I don't know if I can really dive much over 6 to 8 meters. That's kind of my comfort zone. And then we got out of the boat, and he says, "Yeah, it's about 12 meters." I'm like, ah. But we did it. We did it. Well, we'll come on to that in a minute, anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff. So, wooden spear guns. You've actually made those spear guns you were talking about, right?
Yeah. So I've actually, all of the guns that I have at the moment with the inclusion of my pole spear, I've made all of them from. So I've got a carbon gun that I've made out of component parts that I built and put together myself.
Cool. Yeah.
And then I've got my 2 mahogany guns. So it was basically a lockdown project for me. The only thing that kept me sane, just went in my garage, put on my songs, and sang away to myself. Basically, instead of whittling spoons, I made a spear gun.
Brilliant. Quite a rewarding experience. But what's the how do you find it compared to guns that you bought in the past?
So my first gun that I made, it was a double-banded gun. It comes in at just over 90 centimeters, and I made it out of mahogany. It was out of mahogany. I got a friend to route the rail into it, and everything else I made. Put in a signal sub easy trigger mech just because it was easiest one to fit where I put the pin across it and like line it up. I thought I'm going to make a hash of that, so put that in. And twin banded 16 mil rubbers, and even for the base of the handle and the trigger guard, I got the sheet stainless steel off eBay, and then just made that and molded that with an angle grinder until it fit, and then polished it up, fitted that on, and I loved it. Like I didn't know how it would react, so I kind of don't know how my hopes were. So I took it out, and when I first took it out, I blatted a few fish straight away, and I was like, "This thing's really good." And then I shot a few more, and then pretty shortly after that, I just sold my other gun that I had at the time because I was like, "This is now my go-to."
What was it about? Was it just the fact you built it, so you felt like some kind of sense of connection? Yeah. Or was it actually better in some kind of way?
So it was the balance, like the balance of a wooden gun. If you get a wooden gun really well balanced, you can kick it in the water and it will just fly horizontally. It takes a lot of work to get them to that part. I mean, there's a bit of mass to it. You got to get all your metal parts, and anything that's going to weigh down the gun, you've got to subtract that from the weight and the buoyancy of the gun. And then this is where the tricky part comes in. You've got to then drill space to put the lead into the gun. But as you drill space to put the lead into the gun, you are removing buoyancy at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's quite hard to fine tune them, and to properly fine tune it, I end up putting lead into the gun, and then after I put in lead, it's decent quantity. I had nearly 400 grams of lead put into my gun, and then I had to drill some of the lead out and fill that back with resin so that it could sit perfectly.
And did you test it in the bath for that like level buoyancy, or just test it in the sea and come back and refine? Or
so what I done initially was, because you have to seal the gun before you can test it in the bath, because otherwise water would ingress into the wood, and then you'd be sealed.
Of course, so you can't really do that. Yeah,
you can't do that. So yeah, I built the gun, epoxied it in full, and then weighed all of the component parts of the gun that was adding on, like the spear, the reel, trigger mechanism, anything that had any weight to it. Weigh all those, and then after I weighed all those, I then got fishing leads on a piece of mono, and hung those over the spear gun the entire way along the spear gun. And sorry, my spaniel's trying to chew a hole in the floor. Stop it!
I was wondering what that noise was.
So yeah, after I'd worked out the weight, and then took the gun out, dried it all off, drilled the underneath of the gun, and then poured in the amount of lead that I needed to kind of balance it, subtracting a little bit of lead because obviously I was removing some wood, and then epoxied over the top of that to seal the lead in, and then that's that.
A lot of people, like, well, for me anyway, I mean, I've done a bit of woodworking in the past, but a lot of people are probably a bit scared of like trying to build their own wooden gun because they don't really know what sort of tools and stuff they would require. I mean, what's the bare minimum that, like tool-wise, that you would need to build a gun? A very basic gun.
A very basic gun. I largely had my gun finished with a chisel and a hammer and some clamps for the most part. What I would say is it's definitely a good idea to get the rail routed in. I've seen on some videos people will carefully draw lines and chisel it in, but at least with a router, you know that is the important part. It needs to shoot straight. If shooting around corners, and it's a waste of time. So I'd definitely say get the rail routed. But for the rest of it, you could probably do the most part with a chisel and a sanding block. Because I also use a Dremel tool.
Yeah.
So it's, and I just had wee sanding attachments and like the barrel drum and that, so you can work it around. That's what I made the base and the trigger guard with. I put an angle grinding piece onto a Dremel, just the wee ones, and then just carefully carve it out, and then the metalwork files, and you're away. It is a time-consuming thing, and you've got to enjoy kind of the process. I wouldn't say to someone build a wooden gun if you don't enjoy like the kind of crafty side that goes into it. It is a lot of work.
How many hours?
Yeah.
Could you quantify?
So I made one in one weekend. The second gun I made, which was the roller gun, I built that over the course of a weekend. But I had the advantage that I was using my brother's wood workshop, so I had more advanced tools to my hands. But I've actually I'm in the process of building 2 more wooden guns at the moment. So I've just completed the handle on one of the guns because 2 American clients I took out on a charter trip, they've enjoyed my gun so much that they've asked me to make them a gun each. So
amazing.
A project over the next month or so.
Nice.
Future career as a gun builder, maybe. Sorry, go on.
So talking about the charter trips that you just touched on, do you want to explain a bit more about that, like just so the listeners know what you did?
Yeah. So over last winter, I was very lucky that a friend actually decided to put me through some boating qualifications. So over the winter, I've done my level 2, and then I've done all the necessary requirements for my day skipper theory and then my day skipper practical. And hopefully in the next over the winter, I'm going to do my advanced powerboat, my yacht masters. So I've kind of got no limits to how far I can go. Got myself commercially endorsed, and I now run wildlife trips and fishing trips part time. But
Nice.
I've always been like wanting to kind of branch into the idea of like taking people spearfishing, because I go out spearfishing with a lot of folk as friends on my own boat, and just I enjoy good company and taking people out and that. But then I thought, you know what, it could be a proper thing. So I actually got contacted by 2 Americans, and these boys had seen my YouTube channel, and they said, we love what you do. Any chance we can get a trip? And then I arranged that through my boss that I've got the boat with, and he said, yeah, no worries, we'll make it happen. So in the space of like 5 days from them contacting me, they went and bought wetsuits, and these boys, they dive in Florida. They're used to 29 degrees water and 40, 50 meter fish. So took them out, and it was the first time wearing a proper wetsuit as opposed to a rash guard, and 15 degrees water. It was entertaining watching them first jump off the boat. But
yeah, nice.
They adapted really well to it though, and they were straight away smashing out decent bottom tines at 12 meters. And they when I gave them my guns, they didn't have spear guns, they had everything else but the spear guns. And gave them the guns. I said, listen, these guns are deadly accurate, so if you're missing fish, it's on you. And then they both chuckled and started like shooting fish. And I mean, one of them even done the full length of a double wrap and shot a fish at like a really decent range. And he was just like, love this gun. Not that you need that range, but maybe for Anthony.
I was going to say, was this trip they took the boys out? Was that one of your West Coast trips yet?
Yeah, that was my second one. So it was one of 2. We certainly got the biggest fish, and it was entertaining. And Anthony's hit most of the big pollock in the north of Scotland and left them a hole in them.
Well,
I was leaving my mark on all the fish for you.
Weren't you just?
You managed to give Ben some gills as well, by the looks of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Ben was a wee bit conservative when he said that he was like a max of 12 meters. So we put the float down briefly and threw him out to some deeper water and said, let's go down. I'll follow you down and pick you back up. And he smashed a 16-meter dive, no issues. I think he was.
Nice.
Pretty pleased with it, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. When I got into spearfishing, I always thought. I remember going into the spearfishing store and seeing Joe PK, and was like, no, I only ever want to dive like 5 meters, something like that. I'll probably go out once a month or something like that. And now, kind of addictive, isn't it? You just want to do more and more and more. And I really enjoyed. We put the guns down for those deeper dives, didn't we? And we did a couple of, I think it was like 12, 14, then 16 meter dives, and I really like the free diving side of things. And I always thought it, I don't know, would be a bit boring, but it's really relaxing and really nice thing to do, and really, I think, it just chills you out in a way that nothing else does. Because when you're spearfishing, you are quite excited. You're about to find some fish and shoot some fish and stuff like that. Whereas freediving, it's different, and I love them both.
Yeah, no, it's something with my diving is like I feel like I always want to be progressing. So whether that's shooting a bigger fish, holding a bigger bottom time, or just diving deeper, like you kind of want to keep on going on. So like I was glad that I took you into some slightly deeper water, and just because I totally think you're probably capable of smashing 20 meters, but you just need to put yourself through it.
Yeah, it's just a mental thing. A lot of it, I'm sure. I thought it was my ears, but maybe I'm just not relaxed enough, or haven't previously been relaxed enough to do it. I guess that was the end of 3 days of diving, and by that time, you kind of know you can do it. So, yeah, thanks for your help.
What I did love about that was that straight after I saw Lawrence was the fish, I was like, "Oh, Ben's just done a 16-meter dive," and he didn't hesitate to say, "Let's go." We went straight out, and he got 16-1 on his first dive, and I was like, "Oh, you smashed that!" And that was his PB as well. I was like, "Do you fancy doing deeper?" And then he was like, "No." He's like, "I bet Ben, why would I?"
Yeah, we both got 16.1 meters in the end. We found out. So there's nothing like a bit of healthy competition in spearfishing.
Yeah, it sounds exactly like our friend group.
Yeah. Very much so. Exactly. So I thought it might be good to just talk about the way we set up the Skye trip. So our friend Lawrence, who we were just talking about, the competitive one, well, competitive, I guess, got in touch with you, Aareon, didn't he? And he said, really keen to organise something, and he sorted out accommodation. I think working with you as well on that, because the guys that you go out with on the wildlife boat also have a caravan and a bed and breakfast. So how long ago did we arrange this, guys? It was quite a long time ago, like 3, 4, 5 months ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Beginning to the middle of summer. It may have been April when we first started discussing it, or when Lawrence sort of mentioned it, and then I think it just progressed from there. And we made a little group chat on WhatsApp, and so it must have been a good 4 months ago.
Yeah, it would have been about 4 months ago. I went diving with Lawrence a couple of years ago. He came up here and he got in contact with me. We went out for a wee dive, and then I think 6 months later, I actually went down to his, had a shot a mackerel and missed a cuttlefish because I didn't know what it was until it turned colour and darted away from me and bits like that. Didn't go with the plan, but he's always been keen to come back up and get a big pollock, which is exactly what he did.
Yeah, he did. How big was it 70, 80 centimetres, something like that? Somewhere in between?
It was 78 centimetres, and it was 7.7 gutted, so it must have been pushing towards 9 pound. It was a nice fish, really solid fish. Probably like the one you shot, Andy.
No. Mine would have eaten that one whole.
11 pounds, you said, didn't you, Anthony?
Oh, it was the biggest fish I've ever seen.
It was 11 pounds last week, so surely it's 12 by now.
Well, he's probably put on weight, especially with the hole in the side of his face. But yeah, that bloody spear gun. It's since I've been back, it's been in a corner and it hasn't even been looked at. So I need to stick it on Facebook.
Ginging the spear.
No, I don't know. I was going to try kicking out the floppers, like Davo said while we were away, and trying it again. But again, that 85 roller, I just don't. I've never needed it down here.
Yeah.
We just haven't got the viz. I don't believe personally for it. My 75 is amazing. Goes through the water like butter, and is super light, and I'm super used to it. So when we were in Skye, as soon as I changed to 75, I was hitting fish and keeping them. As opposed to just wounding them mortally.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really important thing that you said about not like kind of changing what you do. Like you got to stick to what you know for a certain idea. I keep with what you're like used to. It's not worth changing stuff, because that was where I kind of went wrong at the competition, because I had such short notice. I basically had to order an open muzzle and change my gun just before a competition, and that was the gun I was using. So it took me a couple of days to kind of hone in the accuracy side of things. Even like really fine stuff, like when I placed the muzzle onto the barrel, there was a slight drop in the barrel, between the barrel and the muzzle, so I actually had to get some sandpaper and really carefully sand it just so that it was perfectly aligned with the spear. When I changed up, it did take me probably a day or so to get my kind of aim back in, and I was lucky I managed to test it out the 70 in Shetland a wee bit, but I was having a mare, and like I just losing my temper with the gun because it wasn't hitting anything, and I was like, why have I had some fish that were banged to rights, and I couldn't even work it out from looking back at the GoPro footage as to how I missed them. But so for that reason, I ended up just going back to the pole spear for a bit, and then after I'd mellowed out a wee bit, got a couple of fish with the pole spear, I went back to the gun and eventually started to hit fish. And it's almost where you just need to get your confidence up with the equipment you use. Once you start hitting stuff, you get your confidence in, and then it carries on from there.
Yeah. That's what I feel with that roller. When I have hit fish with that roller, it's like it twigs. Like your mind knows exactly what's just happened. And the annoying thing was, and again, like in Scotland, I don't think there was nothing wrong with the aim per se that I was doing. I was hitting the fish. I mean, mainly because of the fact that they were on the tip of the spear, but they were just tearing off. So that's why I think it was something more to do with the flopper. But yeah, shit happens. We move on.
There's always next time.
And there was a load of bloody fish up there, so
there was a lot of fish.
We were spoiled for choice. But moving into that whole trip that we did. So we did effectively it went over. What was it? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So a 5-day trip from start to finish. And there was 5 of us that went up and met Aareon at Skye Marine. Is it Skye Marine?
Skye Marine.
And so it's with Skye Marine. Is that who? Because obviously we chartered the boat through you and through them. Are you part of Skye Marine, or?
So I'm an employee of his. I'm an employee. I am his only other employee. I'm just his release skipper.
Yeah, cool.
It's a one-man band plus me.
And the accommodation was, I believe, his partner.
So his other half had sorted out the accommodation, and I think for yourselves, it's probably pretty convenient having everything on your doorstep. At the end of the day, you don't really want to be driving to accommodation and stinking that out with fish when you've got somewhere on the doorstep.
Absolutely brilliant, and great breakfast as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Of which I only had 2 out of the 3, but never mind. We'll get to that bit.
But, so it was quite a long distance there, wasn't it? It was basically a whole day's 12-hour, 13 hours worth of travelling. We did it in 2 different cars, didn't we, Anthony? What time did you leave? Like 3 o'clock, something like that, and slept for a couple of hours in the car before getting up there. I think we were really keen to get there as soon as possible. Me and Lawrence had a half a night in a hotel before leaving pretty early to get up and get in the water. And we managed to extend. We were originally going to do 2 days diving, but we managed to do 3 days diving in the end, which was pretty nice, wasn't
it? Yeah. So we left. I've luckily got a sort of like an 8-seater bus type thing that I bought sort of damn near specifically for the trip. And there was me, Davo, and Tom in this car, in my car, and then Ben and Lawrence went up in theirs. And we left at 3, just gone 3. I think it was 3:10. Drove all the way through, stopped off for fuel, but it was 628 miles and 13 and a half hours. And that was driving pretty much non-stop. We stopped off about half an hour away from Skye Marine while we were on the Isle of Skye, just to have a couple of hours sleep, at which point Dave, bless him, was already a bottle of red down and very, very tired. So was absolutely shattered. I fell asleep on the back bench of the car. And there's me and Tom trying to sleep. I mean, I'm 6'6", and Tom's not a small bloke either. And trying to sleep on the front seats of those cars was hilarious. And then, woke up to a perfect sunrise, drove the rest because we were going to get in at the point that we stopped, but it just looked too bloody cold and we were too tired. So,
bless.
Yeah, we're pussies, as you said in the chat.
I just were. When I woke up and checked my phone, and I quickly established that Davo had quite a lot of red wine. It was just highly entertaining, just playing all those voice messages. He'd left what was about 4 or 5 highly entertaining voice messages in the chat. Yeah.
Well, and then it was a case of at the time where we stopped, where we were going to get in, as I was saying, we didn't have any wetsuit lube, and so we were like, oh well, we need some warm water. And Aareon's response was, "Stop being pussies, use the sea." And it was like, no, we're fair weather divers. We don't do any of that cold water shit.
Anthony, cold's not a real thing; it's a state of mind.
This is true. Pain is just in the brain.
Exactly.
But I try to keep it out, unlike I am at the moment. But and then we drove up. Yeah, we drove up, got to the accommodation about 8:30, something along those lines. Of which I think Ben and Lawrence joined Aareon for a walk, where they're all held in hands and, touching mushrooms and stuff.
Went for a wee mushroom pick, a wee forage.
That's it. Went to go and get all the hallucinogenics. And then we went out, tried scallop diving. Well, we took the guns, but we tried scallop diving on a couple of spots that we'd been told were good that weren't. Aareon.
You're in the wrong spot.
Oh,
I told you. The upper side. Because once I put you on them, I put you on them.
Yeah, this is true. So we did the first few hours, we were tired and very cold. And then after,
David was still drunk.
David was still drunk, absolutely. And then about 1 o'clock, you guys came back. You guys went off in your rib for a boat dive. Me, Dave. No, I think it was just me and Dave because there was only room for 4 of you guys. Me and Dave went for some scallop diving on the spot that we should have gone to begin with. And got, what did we get? Six
each. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got and they were
good size though, weren't they?
Massive. I mean, you said the night that we came back and I was showing you them, you was like that. You said that you got your biggest size that you'd measured was 175 mil, and we managed to find 2 that were the same, and they were just huge. The meat in them was the size of your fist.
Yeah, they were. I've never seen scallops like that. When you came back with them, I was like, wow, that's amazing. And it wasn't just the shells themselves, it was also the meat inside them was extra big. It was like almost disproportionate to the shells.
I didn't even know with scallops that you can age them by the rings of their shell growth.
Yeah.
And I was having a look at the bigger ones that I've got here, and they were 7 and 8 years old. So they are some pretty old scallops. But the scallop diving versus like what we're used to down here, they are very, very few and far between.
Yeah.
But then again, one dive you'll find 5 or 6, and then you've got your fill. But
that's the thing.
It was
Sometimes
hard work.
You have to work hard for them too. Like you can have 4 or 5 dives with nothing, and then you pick up 5 or 6 in one go, and that's you sorted. So it's just at the end of the session when you're trying to quickly go and, after you've been spearing, try and quickly go and grab some scallops. And it's those days where you're tired and you're literally hoping that you get them on the first drop, and you have to work for them. And it's high tide because you're getting the boat out, and you're having to dive 4 meters deeper than you'd initially have to do if they were low. And it can be a bit of an epic.
They're deeper up there as well. Oh, I thought they were anyway. They're deeper up there than they are down in Devon.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, normally a couple of the scallop spots that I've got locally are up to 12 meters, like maximum 12,
if that,
13.
More like 6 to 8, right?
Yeah. But they're considerably smaller. But the ground as well is different. Like up there, because they've obviously been around for so long, the bigger ones that I found were actually in and amongst some like really short brown frilly kelp or like algae, and they were blended in so well. You only saw them when you went past and looked sort of in their mouth.
Yeah, you really need to kind of rummage around and move some of the ground to find the hidden ones. We do have quite a few commercial scuba divers around here, so you can find that anything that's in the clear has been potentially went over by divers, and there's not much left after that. That being said, there are some spots in deep, clean water where you're in 20, 25 meters and you can pick up there quite nicely. But at the same time, that can be pretty physical when you're doing repeated dives into that depth.
Well, I think at the end of Thursday, we had you guys caught. What did you guys catch on the boat, Ben?
Well, there was pollock and collie. I caught my first collie on that first day's diving, which I was pretty excited about. But there wasn't quite as many fish as the next day. I don't think they were quite as big.
It was pretty rough, and we didn't really get that much. It was pretty heavy going. My favourite spot that I took you to, we were taking a pounding. Unfortunately,
I quite enjoyed it. It was probably the roughest seas that I've dived in, but in those kind of situations, I guess you behave a little bit differently. And we were doing proper buddy diving, which I quite enjoy, where one down, one up, and watching each other carefully. I think that's a nice way to dive when you're diving, especially when you're diving somewhere where it's a bit rougher and a little bit new and a little bit deeper than you're used to. I really enjoyed it. It's a really good ground there.
It was certainly that rough that if you weren't watching your buddy come to the surface and you're 20 meters away trying to look in their direction, you wouldn't see them to the height of the wave. They'd be in a trough, you'd be at a peak and so on. So it was the only safe way to look after each other.
Yeah, it was real good fun. But yeah, that's that second day, I guess, of fishing, or the first official day. we were out on the bigger boat with all of us together. That was pretty special.
Yeah, that's on the Friday, wasn't it?
The 24 fish we came back with, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was 24 or 27, something like that. But it was like 10 coalies and 14 or 17 big pollock. And I think all the pollock pretty much weighed, well, they were £3 plus up to, 8.5, £9.
You told me all of your pollock weighed 14 pounds.
He's full of shit, what can I say?
That's why it sinks so fast, man.
Yeah, the ones I shot weighed 14 pounds, but they just didn't stay on the spear.
I thought it was 11 just now.
No, they grow.
Yeah. So on the first day, because of the way the winds were going, the winds were blowing fairly strong from the west, so we went round and then round to get some shelter from a westerly, so on an east-facing cliff face, and started off, well, I'm going to call it Spot X. So we started off at Spot X, and the visibility there, to be fair, is probably about as good as I've seen on Skye. It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, it probably was in excess of 15, maybe even more.
Yeah.
Like you were saying in the previous podcast that you were surprised by the way the fish behave.
Yeah. So that Spot X, when we first went down there, we were, as we were saying a second ago, we were properly buddy diving, and so unfortunately, I drew the short straw and had Davo, of which I didn't really see in the whole dive, but never mind. But we were proper buddy diving, and after about must have been about half an hour, 40 minutes in the water, we'd seen plenty of small pollock, but nothing sizable. And we were diving down where it was pretty much probably the same as the whole of Skye, where it is sheer rock face, straight down to about 5 meters, and then it went right down to the sand at about 15-ish, 12, 15. And we used to here, sitting in the kelp, looking at the sand, making a bit of movement, and the pollock will come in from the sand. And after half an hour, 40 minutes, Dave turned around and he goes, there's just no fish here. But on that dive that I'd just come up, I looked up the kelp as I was coming up from that dive and saw a couple of big pollock. And I was like, no, Dave, I think they are. I think we're looking the wrong way. Anyway, as soon as he said that, I did another dive and came back up with a £5 pollock. And it was like, Dave, look the other way. They're all up in the kelp. And with that, Lawrence was catching. I think Tom had one come off. And I think we pretty much all caught on that spot.
Yeah, so I was buddy up with Lawrence, following Lawrence around, and once we'd moved into the shallows kind of to a certain degree, we were probably only in 8 meters of water. You could see them from the surface just cruising in and out of the gullies, and it was just a matter of like kind of getting Lawrence's attention, pointing, take the dive and take the shot. It was a nice spot for that, and there is other spots on Skye that I've actually managed to shoot pollock over £5 from the surface during the same day. And that was as soon as I got out of the boat, I started to load the gun and just seen a fish cruising through a gully. It comes out, and one of them had done a slight duck dive. That was just a level myself, but the other one was properly from the surface. And sometimes it does, like, you don't always need to dive really deep to get good sized pollock. I do I quite enjoy hunting at around kind of 12 meters, and I like that kind of depth. But you can properly shoot in the shallows here as well.
Well, that was one of the things from the whole trip, is that obviously because of the geography, I think, of the land, it does get really deep, really quick there. But it was just, how pretty much the whole weekend was diving quite deep the whole time. And then we went on to the second spot, which is where we really did see some big fish, which we'll call Spot Y.
Spot Y, so Spot Y was straight off some cliffs, and it immediately goes into kind of 10 meters of water minimum. And it wasn't long before everyone was shouting, "This is the spot."
We'd forgotten about the boat, and it was just like, throw the fish on everything, just get the fish, they're all here. But Ben, didn't you catch your biggest there as well? Was that that spot?
I can't remember, to be honest. I had three decent ones that I was really chuffed with. They're probably like, twice the size of the ones I've been catching at home. I've never really had big pollock at home. I think part of that is because I'm diving in 2 to 3 meters, but I think, it was, I was just chuffed to bits with any fish that I caught up there was much bigger than anything I've caught back home. There was a couple of interesting things that day, though, beyond fish. I did see an octopus. Quite cool. I've not seen an octopus underwater before. It escaped my spear.
I was going to say, why didn't you shoot it?
Well, I didn't want to shoot it because it was on a rock, and my band was, fully loaded, so I didn't want to blunt the spear. So I went to go and stab it, and it anyway didn't get it. Yeah, I did, and there was also like some huge currents in there, some like really rapid currents. And one of the dives, I think me and Lawrence tipped off the back of the boat and just kind of drifted across some quite a pace. And it was really nice to see some kind of different scenery. I haven't done a lot of drift diving. I'd like to do a bit more.
No, there's certainly places here that have got currents in excess of 4 knots.
Yeah.
So you're not going to keep up with those. And when you're doing that kind of stuff, the only option is to have the boatie come pick you up, because you wouldn't want to, if you burn yourself out just doing a few dives and then swimming back up, that you'd be done for the day.
Oh yeah, I don't think you could have swum against it even if I wanted to, but you could still dive down a little bit and get yourself into the right place. Unfortunately, I missed the nice big pollock I saw down there, but it was.
I've certainly found that the currents are generally what the collie like. The big collie like sitting on not in the current, but on the edge of
just underneath. Yeah.
Just underneath on the big headlands, and that's where the big collie sits. So you want to be close to the current, but not quite in it, except when you're working too hard.
The other thing that I saw was the massive lion manes, the jellyfish that were up there. Were huge.
Yes.
Sort of when we were on the way out there in the boat, and I saw a couple of jellyfish from the surface, and I didn't quite appreciate until I got in the water how big they were. But luckily, all of their little stingy tentacles had obviously worn off. But yeah, I still want to take in a face full of that on the way back.
The lion's manes are definitely they tend to die off around September time, but in kind of July, August time, they can be huge, and the tentacles can be over 5 meters long. And they can be so fine and wispy that you can hardly see them. I've unfortunately had the pleasure of being stung quite on 2 occasions, and obviously with the nature of what we wear, it's always on the face that you can shoot.
Yeah.
So I had one right at the start of a boat diving session for the day. It was my very first spot I dropped in, and I had 4 dives, and I surfaced. And as I surfaced, I don't tend to look up when I'm surfacing. I just tend to kind of look straight at what I'm doing, or I'm looking down, looking for the next fish. So I went and surfaced. I basically surfaced in the side of this lion's manes and the tentacle that wrapped right around my lower lip. And I knew it hurt as soon as I done it. I was like, this is really, really painful. And it wasn't until I got out of the water that I realised just how painful it was. And it wasn't just the sting of where it got me. It was like a paralysing pain. I was getting shooting, stabbing pains in my hands, my back, my knees. And that lasted about 8 hours. It did not relent for about 8 hours, and I actually ended up getting some pretty decent painkillers off the doctors at A&E, because 5 hours in and it wasn't relenting. I was like, no, thank you. It was that part where I was like, when's this going to stop?
Ouch. Very
and
ouch.
Then thankfully, the second time I got stung, I had some of these painkillers left over. It was only a few weeks later.
Christ.
But I'm all out now, unfortunately, and I've not had any stings since. But there is some places in certain months of the year where we're diving, and you can see down in kind of 12 meters of water, and there's multiple jellyfish, and you're kind of almost working your way in between them. And in these spots, you are looking up and you're planning your ascent, so you're not even going vertical. You're almost zigzagging up across, and you're holding your hand across your face just in case. But you only put yourself through it. It's the best spots for the fish, because you dive down and you see a shoal of 50 pollock engulf you all around the 5 pound mark. You're not going to go around the corner to where there's no fish just because there's a few jellyfish there.
And then I think we went on from there and we did a couple more spots. But then one of the final spots, which I think is where Lawrence caught his biggest pollock, was I think we were all absolutely shattered at this stage. And so I think it was it just Lawrence that got in? And
I went in as well. I think that was.
Oh, you did?
That was where I caught the biggest one. Thinking
right.
It was about half the size of Lawrence's, of course, but it was.
Oh, nice. And yeah, we were over where we were. There was this massive. I don't know whether it's a golden eagle or what. But
that was a sea eagle, white-tailed eagle.
Yeah, and it was getting chased by this seagull, obviously trying to defend its territory. But this thing, wingspan must have been 5-6 meters. It was just amazing.
They're not meters. They can have a wingspan of up to 8 feet.
Oh, really? Christ!
Yeah. So 5 to 6 meters is you exaggerating like you fish.
Well, as long as I'm consistent,
it's all right.
We always know to half the size of anything.
My concern is he keeps telling us his dick's the size of a squirrel's dick, and he exaggerates a lot. So I'm kind of a bit worried, really.
Well, you know what you need to do to get to the truth. You need to follow. There's two ways. You can firstly just find it yourself, or you can just divide it by 3.
Well, actually, for the listeners, a squirrel's penis is 60% the size of its body, and I'm 6'6". So yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Divide by 300%.
That's it. Yeah, and then divide it by 3.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm glad I'm making this entertaining for Richard as well. Giving a thing.
Well, then we went back and we had gorgeous dinner. Oh, that was the one I cooked. Yeah, no, that was Friday night. I did batter pollock. That we did. I don't think we did fish skin until Saturday.
No, you done the fish skin the first night. I came over and enjoyed that too.
Yeah. Well, we did the fish skin, pollock, chips, a load of the scallops, and yeah, just had a really, really good night. And then had a really decent night's sleep. And then straight into Saturday, which because the wind had changed and was opposite, we went the opposite direction.
Right, but before then, we blessed you with your nickname, Eeyore.
Yeah, of which I still don't understand.
Go on, explain it.
Because so what was happening? Somebody told a joke, and then Anthony made a donkey Eeyore noise.
No,
and I know it was Anthony because he got so defensive about the fact, and I get like this for a living. So when somebody's trying that hard to say that it wasn't them, then it clearly is.
Fine. And then Richard's now figured out the real reason why the name's Eeyore, I think.
He's also a good pack donkey as well.
Yeah. All I'm good for is carrying the gear. Dear, oh dear.
No, you're good for having a laugh as well, mate. Don't put yourself down.
That's what we're here for.
That's it. And then Saturday, yeah, we went out the opposite direction. Of which on the way there we saw dolphins swimming with the boat. We saw a load of what were the other things that aren't dolphins? Porpoise. Yeah, I still need to Google what they look like.
They're like a small dolphin, essentially.
But they're really shy, not like the dolphins, because the dolphins were playing with us for ages.
Porpoises behave. They're very timid. They don't behave in the same manner that the dolphins do. I was actually lucky enough to get a dive in with the dolphins back in March. I just jumped off the side of the boat while they were cruising alongside, and they actually came up pretty close to me. It was awesome.
Cool. Nice
one.
They are big old fish. Are they fish? No, they're mammals, aren't they? They're not fish.
Not fish.
Not fish. They're mammals. But then, and then halfway through the day, we went to an abandoned island. Was it? Is it abandoned or is it still owned by people? Not inhabited.
Yeah, not inhabited. But there's a house there.
Yeah,
not inhabited.
And it's got a really, really cool, like, natural harbour outside the front of it, which we went in low tide. So it was fun watching Aareon trying to manoeuvre the boat in, what was it, half a metre of water?
I've never taken it in that low, so much so that the easiest option was to lift the outboard and hop over the side and just throw the boat in. Walk it in that way. I know I can slow it down before I hear a crunch, because Trevor wouldn't thank me for putting a decent scrape in his 21-foot power.
Yeah, exactly. And then, we had a gorgeous lunch there. Tom had a shit in the sea.
Yeah, he did. And we found out he's got a tramp stamp as well.
Yeah, a tramp stamp.
He did the Cornish sea tail, did
he? Well, no, it wasn't even that. He just got fully naked.
Well, he was wearing long johns.
Yeah.
Like farmer dungarees, so he had no option but to get everything in.
Nice.
And Dave was helping him, bless him. And then and then after that, we got back in and went to
the strange part about that was Tom kept on saying today that he didn't need a hand, and Dave was like, no, I insist.
Dave heard about the tramp stamp and just wanted to have a look.
And let's get you out of that suit, Tom. Come on.
I'm surprised it wasn't Anthony, to be fair.
No, I was too busy eating.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, then after that, we went to another spot with a gorgeous waterfall. And Ben, I think you got some decent footage of that, didn't you?
Yeah, just swimming in and out of it. It's just really nice placed and kind of different to everything that we've got back home, I guess, isn't it? And what was interesting about that waterfall, it was so fishy. Like I would have thought freshwater wouldn't really attract so many of that kind of fish. Like I know that flounders and things like that, like estuaries, but it was really fishy there. If a bit green on the surface, obviously.
So you can notice the difference with the layers, and especially when you get a lot of rain, a lot of fresh water, you can notice it can be like probably the better part of a foot, and it can completely haze up to the point where you can't see the bottom even if you're in 2 meters, you still wouldn't see the bottom. There is so much haze. But as soon as you go through there, it's pretty clear. And because that the fresh water is so much separated from the salt, you can still spear some pretty decent fish. And certainly, I've seen fish in excess of 10 pounds at that spot. So there's big ones kicking around there. But you're right. You wouldn't think they'd like the fresh water, but the depth of water and
seems to work. I often wonder if they're attracted to sound, and I guess you got the sound of that waterfall kind of hammering into the water. I wonder if that may attract some of them. But yeah, it was a really fishy spot, really good. That was where I did the 60-meter dive with you, and so did Lawrence. It was
Dave was smashing good fish there as well.
Did it? Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. No, I think when we went to go and get Davo to go to the last spot, because there was one spot before that actually, wasn't there? There was the scallops.
Yeah.
With the 3 massive seals that were in the water at the same time. Of which that was the only thing I think about that entire trip that I was any good at was the scallops. But no. And then we went back in.
Sorry, I'm meant to stop in here. No, Dan, Anthony, you're doing just fine.
We weren't.
It's fine.
See, as soon as you put down your roller gun, but you're doing fine as soon as you put down the roller gun.
Yeah, the silence was fine.
I think you speared more fish than I did. To be fair, mate.
I love how he went and bought that roller gun for that trip as well.
Exactly. It just didn't work. But no, it rings true to stay with the thing that you know.
Yeah, definitely. But and that was pretty much the end of the trip, wasn't it? We returned back to the spot that we did on the end of the last day.
Yeah. And I took Lawrence and Tom to a slightly different spot, so we weren't bombing the same spots too badly.
Yeah.
And Lawrence got another nice fish, but it was a pretty decent trip. I was thinking coming back to the gear, like. I think probably an 80 to an 85 centimeter gun is probably your kind of perfect gun. You don't need much more than that. I mean, some people like a 90 or even like Josh, he swears by his 110s, but for the most part, anything over 90 is probably overkill. And if you want the range, you can just double wrap it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was great.
And if anyone's thinking about coming over to Skye, what sort of fish can they expect to catch over there?
Lots of pollock and goldfish, and wrasse as well. If you're into your wrasse, there's plenty of wrasse kicking around as well. But predominantly pollock and goldfish.
I caught the only wrasse that entire trip. It's because I'm the only fucker that was shooting.
Well, I was only asking because obviously the boys were hoping for some cod, but I guess that's probably further up north, is it? Or?
I think the cod are more. From fishing times, they're more of a winter fish, and they are predominantly further up north. I have caught some rod and line, but they do tend to be in that kind of sub 25 meter range. And I'm trying to explore that more and like kind of whole hunt with torches and that. But the issue is, I don't have many dive buddies. I certainly don't have any dive buddies on the island which are capable of buddying me for those kind of dives. So I have to wait until I've got one or two of them. I'm going to call them my special buddies. That can dive quite deep, and that I'd feel comfortable smashing out 25 meter plus dives to go whole hunting with.
Yeah, for sure.
For the thing as well, they're another species. We get those rod line, but they're again predominantly 25 meters and below. That we caught them in rod line.
Yeah. And then so as you were saying, Ben, Sunday then we just I think that was pretty much it. We had a really, really nice breakfast and said our goodbyes, and then made our way home. And what was that? Another 630 miles, and took us about 14 hours. Of which you left.
You took an interesting detour.
Yeah, so we just did. It was just Google Maps, and there was one that it started trying to take us the original way, or the way that we came up. But there was another one that was half an hour quicker. But Lawrence and Ben left half an hour before us, and we stopped for 20 minutes, and we still overtook them on the way home. So,
and we were going over 70 the whole way back, so make of that what you will.
I was only doing 70 plus 20%, but never mind.
It was an epic trip. So yeah, thank you, Aareon.
Was it longer on the way back or on the way up? What do you reckon?
The journey was worth it. I don't even know how long it took us, but it was. I mean, the best thing about that bit of the journey is Scotland is just absolutely stunning. That whole journey, whether it's the A9 or the A84, whatever the other route was, A82, it's just absolutely beautiful. And you don't really think about like time and stuff because you're just looking out the window going, yeah, this is cool.
What was amazing that we found in the car was that on the way up, because it was dark, we saw the Scotland border or the Welcome to Scotland sign, and then the last bit of the trip, because it was pitch black, didn't feel like it took that long. It was chucking it down anyway, so we were going quite slow. But on the way back, it felt like we were in Scotland for ages. It was like we're 6 hours in and we're still in Scotland. And then we saw Carlisle, and it was like, oh, thank God, we're out of Scotland. We don't need to subtitle anybody talking to us anymore. But no, it was a fantastic, an amazing trip. And the only thing I don't think we got into was how did you I know that you've done that, the one trip before us with the Americans. How did you go about organising and planning the trip from your end? Is it just a case of you know your spots, you borrow the boat, and then off you go? Or
in my spare time, I take out that boat a lot, and basically the idea is I need to find as much ground as possible, and there's a lot of good spearfishing spots. The problem is they all work different. Some days you can go to a spot and it's got the same conditions, the same tides, and for no rhyme or reason, there's not the same standard or the same size of fish that there are. So the trick is have plenty of them, because I'm lucky. I've got lots of big fish marks, and I don't want to be that guy that's just got that one mark where you can pull out good fish, and short of that, there's nothing else, because that's not sustainable to keep on going back. There's the spots I go that I've only spearfished twice this year, just because I like to keep it fresh. I don't want to keep going back to the same places. I want to keep on gaining new spots and trying to push it out. And ideally, like, if you keep on doing the same thing, you're only going to get the same results.
No, absolutely. No, it's fantastic. Thank you very much for taking us. We're all, I think we're all still knackered from it. Coming straight back and getting straight back into work, and it's just like, oh. But no, it was fantastic. So moving on from the trip and sort of a bit more into your spearfishing. So you've got quite a YouTube and social media presence, and and how's that for you? How are you finding that? Are you looking to try and get that full time, or?
So YouTube pays horrifically, unfortunately. My channel is, I'm lucky enough that my channel's now got to the point where it's monetized, so I do get a small amount of money from YouTube, but it's certainly nothing I'm going to quit my day job for. No, I do YouTube because I enjoy making videos and showing people what's out there. Like when I'm getting a video of like drone footage of dolphins and then jumping in the sea and swimming with dolphins, or if I'm in a pack of spur dog and I got into a pack of spur dog off the maidens and there was like 30 small sharks essentially, about 4 foot long, over 20 pound in weight, some of them, and I was just swimming amongst them, and it's like, when you've got that kind of stuff and you can get it on camera, it's like, why wouldn't you kind of want to show it for people?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And then like some of the wrecks, I'm really lucky. There's a really awesome wreck that I've got on the south of the island. It's just one of these places. It's kind of surreal when you look back at the footage and the quality of it when it's in on a decent visibility day. It's a really stunning place to hunt this big fish, and I think it makes some pretty good content. I just got to edit it up and put it in a nice video with some music, and hope people like it. But it doesn't matter to me if people like my content or not. What does annoy me though is, like, I had one video where I got kind of trolled by the Scottish Spearfishing Scottish Conger Association, which promote the catch release of conger eels, and they didn't take very kindly to my conger eel video, but I don't know why they posted it on their site in the first place, because what did they expect a spearfishing conger eel video to be?
Yeah. Well, that's, as we know, you can't please everybody, but all advertising and like media is good. If it gets your brand and your awareness out there, and It's good. There's going to be, as long as there's more people seeing it, especially things like that. Yeah, spare dog video I haven't seen, so I need to go and watch it. But I'll get on to your ats and your hashtags and all of that in a sec. But just a few questions from us before we go into listener questions, or from me. What piece of gear for the spearfishing couldn't you live without?
Navionics, definitely. Yeah. Navionics is a huge part of me finding any new ground. Unfortunately, in my area, the relief shading is not very good because it's not been went over with the right chart, so they don't have all the sounding things. But just using Navionics and the tide flows to work out upwellings and that, it's my goal to try and shoot decent sized fish as much of the year as I can. So I'm trying to hopefully get fish earlier in March than I did this year, and like using Navionics and tide flows to work out where fish would potentially be, especially early season. It's vital, I think, for me.
Nice. And on the spots that you've been to, can you add to Navionics with, say, like a Garmin fish finder or something?
So I've got a Garmin on my my rib, but unfortunately it doesn't translate across. So when I have my boat, I've got my phone with Navionics on the center console of my boat at all times running, so I can mark up more spots and that. And now my Navionics is pretty busy with marks all over Skye.
Nice.
And if someone was going to go looking on Navionics for spots, whether it's Skye or anywhere else, what maybe 3 things would you look for above all else?
So you use Navionics in relation with Google Earth, because if the most of Google Earth will penetrate into certain parts of the sea, so you can see if it's sand or kelp, and I'd be looking for like kelp, a decent depth, probably on headlands where there's a decent tide flow at certain points would be the 3 things I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But normally I'm looking for deep water that's came up from deep water to shallow. Like you're talking like rising from 30 meters up to 15 meters, quite a sharp drop off, so that it's got some they like drop offs and ledges. I certainly find anyway.
Nice.
Perfect.
Rich, you want to ask the next one?
Yeah, I was just wondering, you affiliated or sponsored by anyone?
So I am sponsored by Spearfishing UK. So cool. I've had the same sponsor as Josh for the same amount of time. That last November, I got offered a different sponsorship, and that just decided in the end it wasn't for me. And then I got offered Spearfishing UK, and it's the kind of gear that I was wanting anyway. So I basically got my wish list of my bits that I wanted. Because obviously I built my own guns, so I'm not after spear guns. I'm quite happy building my own guns and like them. So I mean, maybe one day I would like an orca to be there. They're the one go to on my wish list. An orca spear gun, because they look pretty insane. And
they are nice, yeah.
Daniel Mann said they're like the best gun he's ever used. He absolutely loves it. So I'd like to have a shot of an orca. That'd be good. But maybe I'll get to borrow one at some point to try before I buy. But
nice.
Then I've got like my polo stuff and my dive bars and that. So I've kind of got all the bits that I wanted to add to my kit.
Cool.
Nice.
Awesome.
Cool. And just a final question, before we get into listeners' questions. With spearfishing, obviously you're outside of spearfishing, you're a policeman, and you're now starting these charters, hopefully a little bit more full time. Where do you see yourself in spearfishing in 5 years? Do you want to do this full time? Do you want to keep it as a hobby? Where do you see yourself?
So I kind of see myself on the kind of track that one there. I'd like to do a few more charters, and it's certainly not something that's viable for like a full-time job here. At the moment, it's been blowing 40 miles an hour for the last few days, and it's just over the winter time. There's no fish around, so it couldn't be a full-time thing. But certainly in the summer months and the height of season, I'd like it to be something that I'm doing maybe 4 days a month or something. Just really nice to take like-minded folk out and show them what I've got to offer here. And most people that come here, they're all smashing the PBs. Skye is a good place for big pollock, and I'm hoping that in time I can try and diversify that into other species and do a wee bit more exploring into. Ideally, trying to find cod would be the next kind of mission for myself. But I'll work hard at that for the winter, and hopefully hard work pay off.
Nice. And the other thing, I know you were saying about finding cod, but the one thing that I found fascinating, considering the land up there looks like it was prime for it, was the total lack of flatfish.
Yeah, so I've actually just been on the Isle of Mull. Last week I was on the Isle of Mull, and I got 3 dives in whilst I was there. and they were all targeting ideally bass, but unfortunately the weather was probably atrocious, so failed to get any bass. But I did found everything that should have been there for the bass. I found the lance, the really big sand eels that are like 2 foot long, small sand eels, and a load of lugworm. And I scoured that sand for ages. I was actually thinking back to everything that Jack said in the previous podcast about the signs of flatfish and all that. So I was like, right, I've got the food, I've got a certain amount of tide, I've got the right depth of water, but it was just devoid of flatfish, and I didn't even see one the size of my hand, like nothing. And I spent hours on that sand on 3 different locations. So I do hear that there's definitely better flatfish on the from my line fishing as well, and growing up on the east coast in the Inverness area. There's definitely better flatfish on the northeast coast and the north coast than there is on the west. I don't know why that is, but if you go onto the north coast, there's parts that you could put a washing line full of dab on if you wanted to shoot, and some of these dabs are over a pound, so they're decent sized dab. But,
nice.
Very little of I think I came across pretty takeable flatfish on the Isle of Skye, and a handful of smaller ones.
Awesome.
But that being said, when I was in Mull, I found some queen scallops, which I don't find many of those on Skye, and I found 6 queen scallops also get my kings as well, and they're quite entertaining because they try to swim away from you.
I saw your Instagram post. Yeah, they look cool. They look very cool. Well, on to the listeners' questions. Richard, do you want to take the first one?
So this one was from Sean Rowan on Instagram, and he wants to know, how do you pronounce your name? Because everyone seems to get it wrong or have a different way of saying it.
So it's pronounced Aareon, but sometimes I go by Aaron, but in fairness, I've been called a lot worse before, so I'll take
that. So you just seem to go with it. Fair enough, man. Do you want to grab the next one, Ben?
Yeah, next one is from Falcon Hajar on Instagram. What's your go-to breathe up exercise before a dive?
So I don't do anything special. It's just tidal breathing. It's normal breathing. Obviously not hyperventilating or anything like that. It's dangerous. So normal breathing, and when you come to your last breath, I tend to. I've got my weight belt on my hip, but I still sometimes it slides over my stomach, so I pull my weight belt out slightly just to pull up my stomach as much as I can, and then hit my dive. That's it.
Nice. Cool. And this one is from the Jersey Spearo on Instagram. What noise techniques do you use to bring the fish in?
So for the pollock, I use grunting. As soon as I go down, not always, probably 50% of the time. Sometimes it does more harm than good. I normally do 1 or 2 loud grunts and then leave it be. I find that if you use too much grunting, it definitely spooks the fish. So yeah, use it, but use it sparingly.
I was going to ask this question earlier on, and I knew this question was coming up, so I thought I'd hold on. But here, to track the bigger pollock, like if the visibility is really good, you can pick up some sand and chuck it up and sort of try and entice them in, especially if they're a bit curious. Does that work being on Skye with the visibility being so good?
So I have tried some dusting, and it's not had any effect on the really big fish. The other thing, going back to the grunting, is if the fish are moving in and you can see them moving in, I don't make any sense. It's not necessary. It'll probably spook them. But with the dusting, I've done some spots where I've done a really heavy dusting and you can see from the surface, and not much has came in, not in the way that it does in some of the Mediterranean countries. So I've also tried flashes as well. I've not had any success with flashes. I know Josh has had varying, a mixed bag of results on the flashes, but I've had times when people have been fishing and I've been diving near them, and I've been shooting 5-6 pound pollock that were looking at their lure but not reacting to it. So, which would be similar to a flasher, and if you weren't down there with a spear gun, you wouldn't believe that there was no fish there, but they're just ignoring it. So I think the fish need to be in the mood to take sometimes.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool.
Nice.
So next question, what is the water temp in Skye throughout the year, and what wetsuit do you use? And this is from Ryan O'Gorman on Instagram.
So the warmest the main body of the sea temperature out in the open gets is 15 degrees, and that'll be probably about the start of September. It just started to turn now and it's starting to go down. And the coldest I've had is 5 degrees in the open. But the issue with the winter diving is that we tend to, when we get the decent weather to go out in the winter, it's normally a really big high pressure, which means that water's very flat, and you get fresh water that will sit on top of that, and the fresh water is, in some cases, below freezing. I've been out on dives where the fresh water is frozen by about a centimetre onto the sea, and you're diving next to that, and obviously the water on the surface is fresh water, so you've got your head in round about 0 degrees water, and you're diving down to get slightly warmer. It does burn for a good 20 minutes when it's that kind of cold.
It doesn't
adapt very quickly.
Doesn't relent.
And
cool.
Next one is from Shannon Ross. Have you been into fishing your whole life?
Bless her, that's my fiance that asked that one. She wanted to make sure
is it? I did wonder.
she wanted to make sure there was a question on the listener's question.
Oh, thanks, Shannon.
Thank you. So I've been fishing since about the age of 6.
Yep.
And my dad used to run boat trips on Loch Ness fishing, so I've been basically growing up fishing and around the water.
Nice. Well, all I can say is thank you very much for the trip. It was worth every single penny of the trip up there, worth the drive, and we'll be highly recommending it to everybody that we speak to. Where can people find you on socials?
So I've got my YouTube, Skye Spearfishing. You can drop us a comment on any of those videos, or I've got my Facebook, Aareon Win, or other places, Instagram, Skye Spearfishing. So any of those platforms, you can go ahead. And what I would say is, if you're interested, certainly drop us a message, and we can try and sort something out. And if you boys are coming back, I think probably it would be ideal if you could probably come back for a couple more days and we get some shore dives in to break it up and make
I'd love
an epic of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully get you up in the future as well, Richard.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to coming up and showing Anthony how to shoot these 14-pound pollock.
You made a quick
£16, wasn't it?
18. No, I'm sorry, 18.
Oh, sorry.
You made a quick recovery on your ear there.
Yeah. Well, I had to make the decision tonight, so I don't want to let the boys down, and I made that call, and turns out I made the wrong call, but such is life, eh?
But there's definitely pollock over 13 pound kicking around here. They're there. I've put a shaft into one or two accidentally, which came off. But hopefully I'll get one to hold. But I just don't take a shot at a big fish now unless I'm certain it's going to stay, because the big ones tear themselves in two to get off.
Yeah. I certainly found that. Man. Well, thank you very much for coming on. It's much appreciated. Again, thank you very much for taking us on the trip. And thanks for a fantastic podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Hope to see you soon.
Cheers for coming on, dude.
Cheers, Aareon. We'll speak to you soon.
Well, guys, that was great. Again, really lovely to see Aareon after, I guess it's only 2 weeks, but it was a proper good trip, and something I'm certainly going to remember for the rest of my life anyway.
Feels like it's been forever.
Yeah.
It does not feel like that was 2 weeks ago. I feel like I haven't seen Aareon in months.
Oh, you missed him already. No, he seems like a really good guy. He seems like he's really super knowledgeable about Skye and everything else, man. It's really cool.
Yeah,
Gutted I missed that one.
Yeah, well, the only thing with Scotland is, well, there's 6 scallop a day limit. I mean, at that size, to be fair, you don't really need much more.
So that's actually the limit. So okay, I see. I'm with you.
Yeah. So they haven't got a license like with Devon, with the IFCA in Devon. Also, you've got your license, which is 25 a day. But the limit up in Scotland is 6 a day. There's no license, but they've got a bigger landing size as well. If I remember right, it's 135 mil, whereas ours here are 100 mil, something like that.
Yeah, and to be fair, we don't get many 135 mil ones down here, do we? That's
when we do, we're like, oh my god, that's huge.
Yeah.
They're it was an amazing trip, and Aareon's a lovely, lovely guy. So what's going on? What's coming up?
You're just planning his trip to the Azores, aren't you? Is that right?
Oh, the Azores, yeah. Well,
have you planned it?
No.
Without us, of course.
No, my wife's listening.
He's just going to go and send us a photo from the beach and be like, I did invite you, boys.
Sounds like. Without your wife as well?
Oh, mate, I'm not denying anything on this.
He's got his headphones in. Hayley can't hear, can she?
I'm going to message her. I hear that Richard is going to the Azores.
Well, I don't know what the crack is, but what I do know is I want to go to the Azores next year and shoot some very nice fish. So
Yeah,
nice.
We'll figure it out, and we'll see whether I invite you lads or not.
Nah, go by yourself. Bollocks to you.
I'm only playing. You know what you boys are. Yeah, so the Ringstead competition, the last national competition, got cancelled, unfortunately.
Yeah, we found out earlier, didn't we?
So we had to make a decision on it, and it just doesn't look that good. So
yeah,
safety before anything else. There.
Absolutely. Well, there still should be some nice weather before the end of October, right? So at least we can get a few more.
Yeah, well, I mean, like where I went out the day, it was still pretty decent, to be fair. So, like, if you pick the right, if you pick the right spots, you can get some viz. But the thing is, it's just do those spots hold the fish you're looking for? Yeah, that's the problem.
Well, with the fact that it's cancelled, that means that the current standings are standing, which means that our previous podcast guest, Dave Stevens, is the 2022 champion, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. He's won the champions.
Dave.
Well done, Dave.
Nice one.
Yeah.
One of the Dorset lads coming through.
Honestly, are you gonna suck up to him as well now? Dan, Dave, and Rich, the new podcast team.
Oh, don't be like that.
Well done, Dave. And I think Fina won for the ladies, for the women's
opens.
Yeah. So well done, Fina. And no, well done, everybody. I didn't see what team won.
It's Vince for you.
Vince for you. So yeah, Dave Stevens and the guys again.
Cool.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And the Spearo Hangout team came 14 or 16, I think it was.
We didn't come last.
We did not come last.
Nearly.
No.
I think I came joint last.
And out of us three.
Did I go?
I think in third.
What'd you say?
Yes, you heard correct.
No, you keep breaking up, but I don't know if you do it on purpose or not.
He's so doing that on purpose.
Putting the plug out.
Sorry, boys. My internet connection went when I said your names.
No, my internet actually really...
Come on.
So, yeah, I think what Richard is trying to say is out of us three, Ben came first, Richard came second, and I came last. Never mind. But yeah, no, well done, Ben. Very well done.
Yeah, well done.
So, you're going to bake me a cake or something? Or
yeah, we'll get you a medal, one of those chocolate coins.
Oh, yeah.
But no, we got next year. I think this as a first year, it's been thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm still not even on my full first year's spearfishing yet, so I think that's the end of October. So yeah, looking forward to that. But the other things that we've got coming up in the next couple of weeks, obviously, Ringstead comp's cancelled. We've got the Vobster with David Mellor coming up the next couple of weeks. So that'll be good.
And we got the Dorset Open on the 16th of October. Anyone's from any club is welcome to it as well. And it's going to be a barbecue, some cool prizes, and hopefully the weather plays ball and we can all go diving. But it'll still be going ahead, like the social aspect will still be going ahead anyway, even if the weather doesn't play ball.
Cool.
Yeah, nice. And is that similar to the IC pairs? Is it, or is it an individual?
No, so it's a pairs comp, so you go dive with a buddy, only because you can dive anywhere in Dorset, which means obviously you haven't got safety boats. So yeah, it's a pairs comp. Dive anywhere in Dorset, be back by Weymouth Angling Club by a set time, and all clubs are invited. So it's going to be a really cool event, man.
Looking forward to it. Well, thank you very much, boys. Another awesome episode.
Next week, we have Wet Mammal coming on.
Oh, sweet.
Ooh, Sam
Claudia, yeah, man. He's going to join us all the way from Australia, so it's going to be an awesome episode. I don't know if you lads follow his YouTube videos and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man, he smacks some nice fish, doesn't he? So I'm looking forward to speaking to him next week.
Excellent. Right, well, I need to go to bed and go and lick my wounds and feel sorry for myself.
Nice. Well, I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you very much.
Feel better soon, dude. I'll catch you boys later.
Excellent. Cheers, boys. I'll speak to you soon.